Another victory here against Team Allegiance, who has been kind of in the middle of the pack with 4 points thus far.
Yeah, Allegiance, they split against Noble earlier, then they find the 2-0 against United, so they definitely are still working together as a team. Remember, there were some roster changes for them after the World's performance. They drop MLC Stealth out of the middle lane, end up picking up Met Yankee. But even despite only having the one roster change, that roster hadn't been together very long to build that synergy necessary to really be a top-tier team. Now we can start to see how their scrims have been starting to progress and where they rank among the other North American teams. Terra, the first pick for Allegiance. Terra has seen a really big resurgence as of late.
It's a great guy to pick this early in the draft if you don't know what to expect if you're the opposing team, whether it's going to be the solo lane or the Guardian position. Knowing Cyclone Spin, he's been playing more Guardians recently in that solo lane, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that they do, especially considering Polar Bear Michael likes to play some warrior support, specifically Amaterasu.
That is very true. PBM very flexible, as is Cyclone Spin, as is Weekend. That Kabrakan could certainly be in the jungle, support, or solo. Who knows for Team Allegiance at this stage. Chang'e, that's going to be in the middle lane most likely. As you can see, they picked it once before. They went to Met Yankee. They found a victory. Why not try it again?
Might as well. It has great synergy in these team fights with the sustain to Terra. You have a little bit of mobility. You can get out of that Kraken as well using your second ability, having those immunity frames. It's going to be so important for Met Yankee to save onto that ability to either negate the Ratatasker knockup ultimate or the Kraken knockup.
I think that's the really big counter pick here for Team Allegiance, is that Chang'e into the Poseidon. You can go into Purification Beads and not really worry so much about that Kraken, knowing as long as you have your second ability up, you're not going to be able to get gobbled up by the sea monster. 2 warriors banned away by Luminosity, covering both the solo lane and the Guardian role, like you were mentioning. And Medusa and Odin, the 2 bans here for Allegiance.
Could also still play Erlong Shen here for Polar Bear Michael if that's an option that he likes to do. Could also still play the Terra in that role, depending on what Cyclone Spin wants to do in the solo lane. Fafnir has been locked in, and Fafnir usually not a god that you'll see typically in the solo lane, so more than likely it will be Fafnir for Polar Bear Mike. Terra will be going for Cyclone Spin.
And then Rom going to be the final pick there for Allegiance. Fafnir definitely going to be looking to boost up Rom's attack speed. Ocean's going to be on the receiving end of that coerce buff from Polar Bear Mike throughout the game, without a doubt. Up against that On Her of Barracuda in that lane, waiting to see exactly what Scary D wants to play.
Hades.
That's a Hades.
I like it because now against the Kabrakan, you're going to be able to silence out his tremors. You're going to be able to force out a lot of beads here in terms of the Capri and the Ratatasker. So once Scary D makes these rotations on the Hades, he's going to be making such a huge impact with that Pillar of Agony.
That's true. I mean, there aren't a whole lot of leaps available for Allegiance. Rom and Fafnir can get out of that ultimate fairly easily, but I don't know. Terra's got a short-range dash. You probably need to break a monolith or a crushing wall in order to get out of that ultimate and get the double dash. Weekend won't be able to get out. Met Yankee, even with his second ability, it as you rank it up, it gains in frames, duration that you're immune. And I don't think in the early stages of the game it'd be enough to get out of that Pillar of Agony as long as Scary D catches Met Yankee in the very center of it.
That's generally the goal of a lot of Hades players. There's some gods that can get out of that Hades ultimate if you're on the edge, but if you're dead set in the middle, you're not going to be able to. So that's very important for Met Yankee to keep his distance away from Scary D during these rotations. Looking at the solo lane itemization here, both of these solo laners going for the Mana Chalice, and this is normally a very common thing for Guardians to do in the early game, considering the fact that normally they're going to be left alone depending on how the teams want to start out. And whether or not you have the blue buff, whichever one doesn't, is going to be the deciding factor of who's going to control the laning phase a little bit better.
Well, Jeff Hinla, he's gone all the way over to the opposite side of the map for his start. He's going to be in the solo lane with Scary D. Barracuda picks up the little guys on his red buff just to ensure that Allegiance won't be able to get an easy pressure there. Decision from Baskin to get Title Surge pays big dividends as he's able to knock Weekend out of those tremors, which almost spelled big trouble for him and Mask.
It still took a lot of damage, though, on the side of Baskin and Luminosity in the mid lane. Allegiance was able to clear out their mid wave first. Luminosity putting pressure in that solo lane. They don't really have time to secure their own blue buff despite the invade. They're just going to let that go and put Cyclone Spin in a position where he's going to be behind, trailing Scary D for a little bit.
Or Barracuda, rather, on this left-hand side, all by himself, all by his lonesome. He loses the red buff, he loses the purple buff. Luminosity clearly okay with this strategy, allowing Barra to be on the island, trusting the Hunter, the veteran Hunter, to be a little bit behind up against Oceans, but be able to really bring that boxing potential and rotation potential into those mid-game stages with that on her where he really excels.
Despite Cyclone Spin losing his own blue buff, ALG is able to respond with 2 buff invades of their own in that dual lane, hurting Barracuda quite heavily here, and that's something you really want to do because the fact that the early game Hunters can make a big impact in these team fights around the Oracles, around the early Gold Furies, whereas the Soul Laners, it's fine if they don't get their own blue buff, especially with a Mana Chalice anyway. They're going to get online and they're going to make huge impacts once they get some cooldown reduction, especially on the side of Allegiance having Terra for Cyclone Spin. That Terra's Blessing, the global presence there alone for Allegiance is going to make huge dividends.
Without a doubt, and you see Scary D actually going for a little bit of a different style than we see most players in the mid or the solo lane go for. The Vampiric Shroud, not going for the Mark of the Vanguard, which has been so prevalent that even Mask has picked it up instead of that Bluestone pendant. Why do you think we see Scary D go for this more sustain-oriented option?
Well, the problem here for Cyclone Spin is he's not going to have that much damage. Even his mono, he has to be very mindful about the positioning since it's going to be broken by 3 in-hands. And because Scary D is not worried about the damage coming out of Cyclone Spin, he's not going to have to get any defenses. He's going to go for the magical power, a little bit of health, a little bit of sustain, getting health and mana per minion hit kill.
And Scary D's playing a ranged character in the solo lane, which you really don't see a whole lot of. Ranged characters a little bit better at breaking that monolith because they can do it from a distance, not worry about the damage. Luminosity, they should be worried about the Gold Fury here. No one coming to contest whatsoever. They're gonna, in Allegiance, steal it away. No problem whatsoever. 3 minutes in, no kills, but an objective down in the ground as Allegiance sneak away the Gold Fury.
Polar Bear Mike using his ultimate, the damage from that dragon doing a lot to be able to secure that early objective. Now granted, this Gold Fury has been worth more since Season 4, starting off at 190 gold per player, increasing by 8 gold per minute. Still going to cap off at around 350 at the end of the game, but this is such an important start for Allegiance to be able to get some sort of snowball heading their way.
Yeah, I think people kind of forget about how strong and how easy it is for a team with a Fafnir to get an early Gold Fury like that because of the AoE Coerce buff. Fafnir spent so long as the premier Guardian, as the premier guy that you wanted in the support role. Then he kind of fell off a little bit and teams kind of forgot about him. Now it seems to be more of a flavor pick, especially if you're going for a double Hunter sort of composition. Fafnir is very well favored because of the Coerce buff, but even without 2 Hunters, hitting with multiple people with Coerce means that you can burn objectives very, very quickly, and it catches Luminosity off guard.
Just Allegiance showing why Fafnir is still very strong currently. Doesn't matter what meta it is to be played. Cyclone Spin going to get silenced out here, but either way, a lot of support players aren't really necessarily comfortable mechanically on the Fafnir compared to a lot of other supports where it's a lot easier to land abilities. Sylvanas is the #1. You know, you're not going to really miss those Wisps, all those Wrath of Terrors. You're just trying to set up your team, whereas Fafnir hitting off that hammer stun, not the easiest compared to other supports.
Support mechanics, that's what it's all about. Polar Bear Mike knows all about those support mechanics and going to be looking to see how exactly what his conversion rate is on the hammer. Wouldn't that be cool if we had little like stats for the conversion rates of how many hammers you hit?
You want to know what PBM's conversion stat rate is for ulting purple buffs on Geb is?
Oh, what's that?
100%.
Of course. What's his conversion rate on buying both Blink and Sunder?
Ooh.
And successfully blinking, sundering, and one-shotting?
0%.
Really?
Yeah.
The leader of the Blink and Sunder clan?
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Just not executing it.
He needs to spend some more time in the arena.
That's right. He needs to show his worth in the battleground of the gods here.
Well, he's trying to on the Fafnir, that's for sure. Level 6, right evened up with Jeff Hinla, who still hasn't backed. Jeff just spending some time farming over here on this right side. He hasn't spent any time over with his duo lane partner in Barracuda. This must be a pretty big change of pace for Jeff Hinla, who's been playing Smite competitively since, you know, the dawn of time, basically. Who's always been, supports have always been in the duo lane, always started out there, you farm there for a while, you're with your duo lane partner. Towards the end of Season 3, that started to change, and now in Season 4, it's completely different. You may not see your Hunter until the 12 to 15-minute mark.
It's so hard to predict where everyone is going to start. In the Eager set earlier on, Aurora was in mid lane the whole time, supporting out the best. This game, for Luminosity, Jeff Hinla on the Khepri is supporting Scary D's Hades. This is something that you're not normally used to seeing, and this is why Luminosity have been doing a good job, at least in the solo lane thus far, having a 2-level lead here for Scary D.
And that's going to be a big boon if he's able to rotate and make it happen, because like you mentioned, I don't think he's got a whole lot of solo kill potential in that lane up against Cyclone Spin. Cyclone does have to commit his dash in order to clear the wave in most instances, but we've seen just how passive he's willing to be. Just sitting under tower, waiting until the wave comes in, and then dashing under the safety of his tower. It's going to be a while before Scary D is tanky enough to be willing to tank up that tower to try and get the kill.
Having him mark the Vanguard is going to keep him alive a little bit longer. Also, if Scary D does try to commit him, considering the fact that the Hades ultimate will tick several times, it's going to mitigate a little bit of that damage, but still doing a good job holding the wave outside the tower with that wall stun, positioning it sideways so that way the wave will sit right there. And then once he dashes through that initial one, the damage is good enough to be able to clear it out.
Basically an even game at this stage. Allegiance still with that slight gold lead, right around 1,000, thanks to that Gold Fury they snuck away from Luminosity right at the 3-minute mark. Gold Fury will respawn within the minute. Maybe Allegiance can try and sneak it away again, though I suspect the Luminosity going to be a little bit more wary to that objective this time around. Polar Bear Mike and the rest of Allegiance trying to steal away this red buff. Jeff Inla's here. He's just a lonely little bug. It's going to be difficult for him to steal that away, and he will not. Allegiance secure the enemy red.
3 members make that 4 as Baskin joins up from Luminosity is here. A nice little Kraken wall going to pin out 2. The Chongolt is going to connect the Kraken. It's going to get negated by Mad Yankee with a little bit of sustain. Polar Bear Mike zoning in the back, but Mask looking to dive.
Scary is here, and a huge Pillar of Agony is going to pull in Met Yankee. That's going to be a guaranteed first blood for Baskin. Now weaken the next one to fall. The Pillar Impale is beautiful. Scary D right in there with him. The Tremors trying to trade out a little bit of damage, but not nearly enough. Ocean's gonna put a little bit of damage into Mask, but 2 for 0. Luminosity fight back into Allegiance, picking up the first 2 kills of the contest.
No escapes for Med Yankee or weak, and not having dashes or jumps. Barracuda forced to jump and beads away, but the ultimate from Jeff Hinla is there and impactful. Polar Bear Mike's going to tank the tower for a little bit longer, but Oceans, he didn't want to commit any further than there. Barracuda still had enough mana for 1 more ability, could have easily impaled Oceans back under that tier 1 tower.
Love the rotation there from Scary D. He commits the teleport to get there in time, and that Pillar of Agony came up huge. Already the unconventional Hades pick giving big payoffs to Luminosity. That's what sets that whole team fight. It really cleans up that whole team fight that Luminosity had begun.
Last week, Scary D was playing very aggressive gods in the likes of both Hercules and Thanatos, and this week, he's already switching things up to Hades, which is still aggressive, but it's not aggressive right off the bat. It's going to be more towards the mid to late, and once Hades gets a little bit of tanky presence, because the Hades damage will always be there, and Scary D wants to be able to dive the backline. If there's an opportunity for him to rotate instead of going for a wave in the soul lane, he'll always look for it.
If you're rooting for Allegiance, you've got a lot of stuff to be thankful for, at least in the later stages of the game, because their late game composition is pretty insane. They've got a lot of sustain available to them between the Terra and the Chang'e. Fafnir's great in the late game. He becomes a pseudo warrior basically once he transforms into that dragon, courtesy of his ultimate. Ocean's playing a late game hyper carry. Chang'e can be a hyper carry in her own right in the late game, and it's really on Weekend to try and get them there through the early to mid stages, and then he'll transition into being this sort of CC companion bot for the rest of his team. Luminosity, their composition, you mentioned it, it's a little bit more mid-game focused.
Absolutely. Between both the Hades and the Poseidon, the brothers are going to be looking to work together to find those targets to kill. But looking at the side of Allegiance, they have 4 magical and only a physical onto Oceans. They need to make sure he doesn't fall too far behind, that he gets the late game items that he needs.
Oh, Barracuda in a bunch of trouble, but Jeff Hinla again there once more, just in case, with that Scarab's Blessing. Oceans waits for it to dissipate. Barra doesn't have a whole lot of room to jump, but Oceans can't see him in that pit and can't find the last 2 snipes. Barracuda escapes with his life.
And we see Weekend doing a great job zoning. We saw Oceans actually hitting 2, but the second one did not connect onto Barracuda, so the third one was very hesitant, finding the pull onto Weekend, but the ultimate from PBM zoning everyone out, Kraken onto 2, Mask in the sky, looking to redeem his support brethren.
Barracuda still not here though. It's a 3v5. Mask trying to peel now, trying to go in. Ocean taking a lot of damage. Desert Fury able to pick him up. Nice Pillar of Agony from Scary D as well. Neither PBM nor Weekend had anywhere to go, and Scary D picks up PBM.
And Barracuda jumping over the wall. Scary D, he found all assists and the kills. He has 100% kill participation off of Scary D's rotation. And now it's going to be a Gold Fury being started by Luminosity. Scary D is zoning in the back. Cyclone Spin lurking to leak around.
Oh, the Gold Fury does go down, though, and it goes the way of Luminosity. Cyclone Spin's in a bunch of trouble as well. Not a whole lot of mana or health available for Luminosity, though. And Cyclone Spin is already fairly tanky. He's got the Heartward Amulet going for the more support-oriented build, really expecting to be in the majority of these team fights with an aura defense item like that. But Luminosity, they take the fight easily, and then the Gold Fury as well. That lead that the early Gold Fury gave to Allegiance, completely gone. 1,500 gold in favor of Luminosity and around 3,000 experience as well. And you called it out, Toli. The 100% kill participation for Scary D. He's looked phenomenal early on in Season 4.
Already doing a great job in Season 4. Ever since he had a little bit of a shaky LAN performance during his Group B LAN, but heading into Worlds and Super Regionals, there was no shakiness out of him whatsoever. And now in Season 4, he's been basically the key factor towards Luminosity's success. And as a result, mixing things up between Assassin, Warrior, or even the Guardian.
Yeah, you can see 3 people here for Luminosity have been a part of all 5 kills, and that's the mid laner, the jungler, the solo laner, and the hunter. Barracuda with 3 kills early on in this game. There's been a lot of pressure onto him put on by Allegiance, but Jeff Hindla's always been there for his hunter, just like he has been for quite some time. Portal Demon getting started up here by Luminosity. Kraken gonna be there to secure it. It goes their way. No contest available for Allegiance. We can sniff it out, but it was just a little bit too late.
I like the timing by Luminosity to get that second objective. They just picked up the Gold Fury, and as a result, now getting an additional 750 gold under their pocket. A nice little advantage there for Baskin as well in the mid lane that's trying to do a little bit more damage here. Med Yankee's gonna be more utility-based, and I'm trying to figure out where's the true damage coming on the side of Allegiance, their magical-wise. If Med Yankee is not in the front line with Cyclone Spin and Weaken, it's all up to Oceans really to be the heavy hitter.
That's a great point. They're not really committing to a lot of burst damage. Chang'e, not your burst damage character whatsoever. Cyclone Spin might be in a little bit of trouble here, but Scary D not close enough, though he is going to use that Pillar of Agony. It's going to heal Cyclone Spin due to those quick ticks, but they get out that long cooldown global ultimate for that Pillar of Agony, which in Allegiance's defense has been a big boon for them.
Polar Bear Mike jumping over the wall, looking to redeem a little bit of extra damage. Scary D is going to get rooted into place. Mask Force ultimate, nothing too much to come out of it. And this was more of a test run coming out of Luminosity just to see how much damage they can actually do to Cyclone Spin at this point in the game before he gets even more tankier.
Well, the tower goes down very, very quickly, 13 minutes in, and Scary D has knocked down Cyclone Spin's tower in the solo lane. This Hades pick working out thus far, really stacking a lot of magical protection because, like you said, Oceans is the only one that's going to be doing any physical for Allegiance, and even then, they don't have that burst mage in the middle lane. Med Yankee on this Chang'e, very support-oriented.
Yeah, he even went for the Shield of Regrow, trying to get more mobility, trying to make sure that whenever Cyclone Spin uses that ultimate, the all-in potential from Allegiance will be there to dive the backline for Luminosity. But with Jeff Hilla playing this Capri, it's going to be really difficult for Allegiance to, even if they do find the right target that might be out of position, they're going to have to worry about the revival here from Jeff Hilla, and then the counter-engage from both Baskin's Kraken and then Scary D's Pillar of Agony.
The more I look at this draft for Luminosity, the more I like it because of that Scarab's Blessing for Jeff Hindla. Usually in the mid to late stages of the game, Hades is a nightmare early on, pun intended, because of that Pillar of Agony. It's so difficult to focus him down due to the extra protections that he gets while he's doing it. But in the late game, you can kind of just kill him once he ults. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage unless he's really committing to a damage-oriented build. But with Scarab's Blessing, if everyone just turns and focuses Scary D, then Jeff can revive him. He comes back at a fairly decent amount of HP, got a good amount of sustain in his kit if he's able to dash in or put his Blight on you and then hit that third ability. So there's a lot of reset potential here for Luminosity. Weaken's got a reset after getting hit by that Kraken. Pillar of Agony as well, and Weaken walks back into it right as
Where's
it expires.
Where's the damage? There's no damage from Allegiance whatsoever. Mask in the sky, thinking about who he's going to land on. Cyclone Spin going to dash. Mask going to miss, unfortunately, but it doesn't matter because a lot has been committed here for both teams, I would say. 3 for 3 ultimate-wise. Med Yankee, Weaken, and Cyclone Spin. That's a huge ultimate, not having the Terror's Blessing.
And as well, a bunch of ultimates used for Luminosity, but like you mentioned, Waxing Moon now, and the Cabrakan ultimate, very, very difficult to fight without those in Allegiance's particular team composition. We saw the Thorns popped there by Scary D, trying to just absorb a lot of that damage, and I love this pickup because the only one who's going to be able to kill him easily in that Pillar of Agony is Oceans on the ROM. You could just return a lot of that damage right back to him with that Thorns.
And what you were talking about before for Scary D in the Pillar of Agony, how he's going to be an easy target for a lot of enemy abilities and enemy in-hand. At the same time, he's going to be an easy target for Jeff Hilla, not only for the Scarab Blessing, like you mentioned, but also for the Rising Dawn. It's going to mitigate a lot of that incoming damage, making him even more resilient than he already is.
That's a great point, and with how much magical protection he's stacking, it's going to be really, really hard for Allegiance to punch through it and make the solo laner pay. He's making them pay right now, 1-0-4. Really, really strong game so far out of the young solo laner for Luminosity. Barracuda quietly has 3 of the 5 kills. Really, like I mentioned, has been a big focus of Allegiance, trying to shut him down. But Jeff Hindla's been right there alongside him ever since those first few waves on the right-hand side.
The 2 side laners between Barra and Scary D getting that 100% kill participation, with Mask setting them up with all 5 assists. Quietly 2 levels ahead is Barracuda over Oceans, and this is not something that Aram really wants to be, is behind.
Not at all, especially right around this stage up against a character like Onher that has the Pillar maxed out, has a couple points of Desert Fury, Impale of course maxed out as well. It's gonna be difficult to get away from Barracuda on one of his signature gods in the Onher. You can see in Mask's build here, it looked like he was going to go for some more power, some penetration, and then said, wait a minute, they've got 4 magical. I'm just going to build Silver Talisman, be a little bit harder to kill. Gold Fury started up here by Allegiance. Don't have a whole lot of outright secure burst damage, but only 2 members from Luminosity are here right now. There's the Desert Fury coming in from Barracuda, pluck onto weaken Mask. Still looking for his target. He's gonna find 2 with the knockup. Barracuda's locked in though.
Forced to jump away. The snipes from Oceans, misses the first 2. Third one off the mark as well. The Rising Dawn doing a little bit of damage over time, but here comes the Pillar of Agony, catching Cyclone Spin and Oceans.
But there's no follow-up from the rest of Luminosity, and Scary D is getting shredded. Meanwhile, Mask picked up Weaken in the backside. Scarab's Blessing on the wrong target, but the Rising Dawn will hit, and Mask is diving deep, looking for Oceans, finds the stun, needs a couple more. Barracuda leaping forward to try and join his jungler, but just not enough follow-up quite yet. Cyclone plucks back in. The Gem of Isolation already ticking for Baskin. That's gonna pick up the solo laner.
Whirlpool, the cripple, nowhere to dash away from. 2 easy kills there for Luminosity. Scary D was doing a great job zoning with that Pillar of Agony, and the Scarab's Blessing. Hold, I thought the Gold Fury gonna get reset, trying to find a pick onto Mad Yankee, but a great job using that second ability to immune the frames. But look at this, Scary D wrapping around.
Doesn't have the ultimate, but he's full health and got a lot of power ready to go. 3-man Fear secures the Gold Fury for Luminosity. Waxing Moon gonna stun a couple there for Met Yankee, but the Pillar is not enough to slow everyone down. In fact, Ocean's the one trying to box into him.
Behind him, Scary D finds the 3rd ability. Great kill yet again. Scary D making his presence known in all of these little skirmishes and team fights, and this is why he's been making a huge name for himself in Spring Split so far in Season 4.
2-0-5, absolutely making the impact on this Hades. Mask as well, 1-0-8. Still a part of every single kill for Luminosity, really dictating the pace around that Gold Fury, darting in and out with, well, Dart, his dash.
Golf clap.
Thank you.
Golf clap. Either way, the Scarab's Blessing was also used there, intentionally meant for Scary D to survive, again, for that Pillar of Agony time. But the fact that it was used on Mask actually helped him dive the backline a little bit longer there. It could also be used offensively and defensively, just for the movement speed.
You can see a Void Stone being picked up here by Baskin as well, still trying to mitigate all this magical damage. Polar Bear Mike forced into the Draconic Corruption as Scary D's ultimate forced up to, but it was just a zone trying to get Luminosity that Portal Demon, and again, LG come away with the objective. 7-kill lead. More concerning, the 7,000 gold lead, almost, for Luminosity. And it's just come off the back of all of these objectives. 2 Gold Furies, 2 Portal Demons as well.
Not only did they get PBM's ultimate, they also got the Terra's Blessing from Cyclone Spin, only trading it for Scary D's. So this is why we see Luminosity starting to group up and get this Tier 1 tower in the mid lane. It's going to hurt the Titan in the long run a little bit longer, give a little bit more map positioning for Luminosity if they look to extend, which is why they're starting to push forward with the wards, and wrapping around is Barracuda.
There's the pluck on a Polar Bear Mike immediately into the Whirlpool. He's got no ult, and look at how he just keeps getting pulled back in, but he jumps out of the Kraken just in time. Weaken finds a big ultimate. Met Yankee still trying to throw out those heals, apply that Lotus Crown to the whole team. Mask looking to find someone. There's a Desert Fury, but Oceans Is able to immune most of it with the Aegis. Scary D picks up PBM once more. 3 kills already for the Hades.
Scary D still diving the backline. Cyclone Spin doing the same, trying to buy a little bit of time. Oceans is left alone. He has nowhere to go once he lands.
Nowhere to go is right. He's gonna fall. Actually gets the rolling assault off into the heel from Met Yankee. Still not enough. Scary D finds him. Jeff Hinla still has that Scarab's Blessing available. And Cyclone Spins in the middle of 4. Scary creating a seal on the backside, making sure that Met Yankee can't get anywhere close. In fact, Met might need to be careful because there's the Pillar of Agony just in time in order to get his 2, though. Met gonna be A-okay. Can't say the same for the tier 2 tower for Allegiance. That's gonna fall. 10-kill lead for Luminosity, and that gold lead getting dangerously close to 10,000 gold.
This game just accelerated 0 to 100 real quick about 5 minutes ago with all these kills from Luminosity. Scary D still making a huge impact, zoning so effectively, better than Cyclone Spin currently. That's 4 levels behind this youngling here for Luminosity. We see the Thorns being picked up here as well. So Oceans is not going to be able to really focus him, which is why he's going to go into the chin size. And despite having the lifesteal a little bit, which will get negated by not only the Thorns here, but by the Pestilence.
You usually don't like to see chin size without a whole lot of penetration built into your build as well, because of the fact that that passive is mitigated by protections. But because of how much magical protection Luminosity is building into, because of the 4 magicals, Allegiance and Oceans in particular doesn't really need that much penetration. You see Sovereignty and Gauntlet of Thebes is going to provide a lot to the rest of the team thanks to that aura from Jeff Hinla, but it's still not, you know, he's not shooting into multiple Breastplate of Valors or anything along that nature.
I like the fact that Jeff Hinla picked up all 3 aura items as quickly as possible, and this is why he's been making a bigger impact in the team fights than PBM. The Coerce has been effective in the early game for Allegiance, picking up that Gold Fury around the 3-minute mark, but after that point in time, it's been all Luminosity just starting to group up, even utilizing the ultimate from Mask, trying to find people out of position, and this is the downfall of Allegiance's team composition, where they just don't have enough burst damage to really find the picks. And even if they do get the same target, like we mentioned, Jeff Hill is there to mitigate all of it.
Fire Giant started up by Luminosity, already under 50% HP, but they peel off of it and pluck in Polar Bear Mike. A great Chang'e ultimate, though, from Met Yankee. Saves the life of his support. Mask forced up into the sky. Weaken coming around the backside, traps in Barracuda, but no one else is there to help him out. Mask trying to find a couple. Great ultimate from Scary D. Locks in Weaken. Nowhere for him to go. Oceans falls by the hand of Mask as well. Barracuda picks up the jungler. Cyclone trying to run away. He's not going to be able to. 3 for 0. Luminosity dominating Allegiance.
They're going to be able to pick up the Fire Giant uncontested. Scary D is going to be able to zone away and stop the backs. Additionally, under that tier 2 tower, looking like he's going to heal a little bit longer, just being an annoying little soul laner that soul laners are.
And he can be. He's 5-0 and 8. He's level 20. The closest to him on Allegiance is level 16. He's going on characters that are level 14, level 13. In Allegiance decide they've had enough. They